Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing the reading taste tag, that's weirdly hard to say, which was created by the lovely Harriet Rosie a couple months ago, I want to say, like at least before the summer, and she tagged me in it. It's her original tag and I'm just getting around to doing it now, so sorry Harriet, but thank you for the tag. It's a really fun tag. I will obviously link her original in the description along with all the questions, and it's just to kind of establish what your reading taste is, which I thought was really interesting, and I haven't done this kind of video in a while. I mean, I've done tags, but I haven't done like the reading, like talking about my reading taste. So I feel like if you're new here, this could be quite a useful video, and also if you've been here for a while, this is kind of just a check-in. So, usual disclaimers. I have got 2 cats in the room currently and Jack's in the kitchen, so I apologise in advance if you can hear or see chaos unraveling around me. We're just going to roll with it. As usual, when I do a tag, I've got my laptop screen up here which has got the questions on it, so that's where I'm looking, and yeah, let's just get into it. So question number 1, describe your reading taste in 1 sentence. So I did do a little bit of prep. I don't usually prep for tags, but I did actually do a little bit of preparation today. Go me. And I've written down a mix of everything. I think that's how I would describe my reading. I read so much and I read a variety. So yeah, I'm not going to get too much further into it because of the next question, but yeah, my answer to that would be a mix of everything, in brackets, pretty much. That's how I would describe my reading taste. Question number 2, describe your reading taste with categories, genre, age, length, etc. So my favourite genre, I have a lot of favourite genres. I feel like it's easier to talk about what I don't like in books or what I don't read. So I don't like really long books. Like if it's over 500 pages, I'm unlikely to read it unless it's a book in a series that I'm already invested in, but I'm also not a big series reader, so I don't like massive books. I don't like slow books. I kind of like to get into a book and then get on with whatever is happening. And I'm reading less and less YA, which makes sense because I'm 36 years old. So yeah, those are probably the things I don't like. I also don't venture towards sci-fi. If something says set in space, I'm very unlikely to pick it up. I have 1 sci-fi book on my TBR, my unread shelves, and that is a Becky Chambers book, and people keep telling me that I'll really like it because of other stuff that's in the book, so I was like, we'll give that a try. But typically, I don't go towards sci-fi. I'm starting to read more fantasy. Like this year has been quite fantasy heavy, which is interesting because previously I would have said I don't read fantasy, but apparently I do. So yeah, so I tend to head towards literary fiction, thrillers, non-fiction, weird books, which we'll talk about in a minute, cozy mysteries, feminist retellings, all of that kind of stuff. I read a little bit of romance as long as there is a storyline. I personally don't enjoy straight up smut. If that's what you enjoy, as with everything in reading, fill your boots. That's absolutely great for you, but I need a storyline as well as the annoy bits. So yeah, that's probably sums it up, I think. Okay, question number 3, show us a few books that represent your reading taste. So I feel like this stack is quite a good cross section. What I would also say is, if you want to see what my reading taste is, you just need to look behind me. All of these books, all the books on my forever shelves, I either gave 4 or 5 stars, and I plan to reread at some point. So anything that you can see behind me gives you a picture. You can see where I'm pulling books out. Gives you a picture of my reading taste. But this is a very much just a representative cross section, and have gone with this stack. So we've got The Illumination of Ursula Flight by Anna Marie Crowhurst. This is, sorry, they're running around now. I told you there'd be chaos. This is historical feminist fiction. We are following Ursula Flight, and I think it's the 1700s, I want to say. Does it tell me? This is basically a coming of age story of a girl who 1664 we start with her birth, and she does not want to live the life that is expected of her. And I love this book. I've read it a couple of times now. It's funny, it's sad, it's thought-provoking, and yeah, kind of feminist historical fiction. I generally really enjoy. I'm just making space over here. Then I've also picked out Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This basically became my entire personality since I read it last year. I've also been lucky enough to read an arc of Bookshops and Bone Dust, which is the prequel, which is coming in November, and I'm so excited for you guys to read it. I don't usually head towards high fantasy. High fantasy would be something I'd be like, no thank you. But this is high fantasy, low stakes, good company, and I was lucky to get an arc from Book Break of this last year, and I kind of, it was becoming a very hyped book. It started out as a self-published book or an indie published book, was then picked up by Pan Macmillan because Sean Maguire read it and loved it so much and was so noisy about it that they decided to pick it up and traditionally publish it. So it was getting a lot of hype online, and I was like, okay, it's about an orc that opens a coffee shop, I'll give that a read. Expected nothing of it, and then read the whole thing in about 24 hours and was completely obsessed. Like I said, it's become basically my entire personality. So yeah, cozy, found family, food, little bit of romance, chef's kiss, absolutely perfect, no notes. So yeah, that weirdly wouldn't have predicted that a year ago, but this is definitely part of my reading taste now. I also enjoy historical fiction. This is my favourite of the 6 Tudor Queens series by Alison Weir. This is Jane Seymour, the Haunted Queen. Anything with Tudors in it, I'll probably read it. You've got a Tudor series there and there. What can I say? I like a Tudor book. And yeah, I like kind of fictionalized versions of real things that happened, if that makes sense. So that's why that one's in there. Then I also like learning about stuff. So I love nonfiction and I like weird niche nonfiction. And this is what this is representing. This is A Curious History of Sex by Kate Lister. I love this book. I would also highly recommend the audiobook because it's hilarious. And this is what it says on the tin, really. It's looking at the history of sex and how things have changed over time and how some things haven't changed. And just, yeah, I really enjoyed this book and I would highly recommend it. Really, really good nonfiction. And also particularly, I like nonfiction that is accessible, not dry, and has a sense of humour. And this really encapsulates that. I mean, just look at the cover. Like, yep, love that book. And then the last two, I like thrillers and I like dark, weird stuff. And with my thrillers, it's even better if it's got an inappropriate sense of humour, because I have picked out Sweet Pea by CJ Skews. This is the first in the Sweet Pea series. You can see the other two that are out currently here. And we've got book 5 coming in January and book 6, I think, later next year. Sorry, 4 and 5. So book 4 in January. I can't count. And book 5 later next year. So we are following in this, we're following Rhiannon, who is the girl next door. She has a boyfriend that she lives with, long-term boyfriend. They've got a little dog. She's got an office job that is fairly dull but pays the bills. And also in her spare time, she likes to kill people, predominantly men. And you follow her. And I say this every time, and every time I recommend this, I have people in the comments who say, oh, I picked it up on your recommendation and I cannot believe how much I was on her side. And I'm like, yeah, you're fully cheering her on, even if she's doing horrific things. So I feel like this shows kind of A, my sense of humour, and B, the kind of like thriller dark stories that I like. And then the darkest of all the dark stories, and also one of my favourite books of all time, Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bastarrica. This is a book about cannibalism, and I love it. Yeah, this is set in a world where you can no longer eat animal meat because there's been some kind of infection or illness. If you eat animal meat, you die. And so the government has legalised the production of human meat. And we follow a man who works in an abattoir. And it's a look at what the world would be like if you change that one fundamental thing. I think, obviously, there is the cannibalism element of it and the kind of horror of that. But this is mostly about loneliness, and I think that's what struck so deeply with me when I was reading this. It's just beautifully written. Even the passages where you're in the abattoir, don't pick this up if you have a weak stomach, or, you know, and also check content warnings. It's so beautifully written, you almost forget for a minute what she's writing about. So yeah, I feel like this stack shows, you know, oh, let's try and pick them up pretty well, what I read. Weird stuff, thrillers, non-fiction, historical stuff, cozy fantasy, and kind of feminist books in general. I think that shows quite a good cross-section. Okay, so question number 4, a book you didn't enjoy that seemed like it would be your taste. This is a book that I read in August, and I'm still a bit sad I didn't love it, because this book has a lot of the elements of Legends and Lattes. It has found family, it's got a slight fantasy element to it, and it's got great descriptions of food. But unlike this one really got me in the feels, really got me in the emotions. I didn't feel anything for this book, which is why I didn't really enjoy it, but I should have done, so that's why it fits this prompt. So that book is The Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. It's cute. It's about a witch that goes to be a nanny to 3 orphaned witches, and it's about what she finds there. And like I said, it's got found family and food and all of that stuff, but I just didn't connect to the writing. There was a lot of kind of telling rather than showing, which is not my favorite writing style. I think I would have been more forgiving of this if it had been a debut, but it isn't. And yeah, I would still love it. I just didn't. So there we go. That fits that prompt. Question number 5, a book that you enjoyed that didn't seem like it would be your taste. So like I just said, I don't read much YA anymore. I don't really reach for fantasy specifically. I might go for a fantasy if it's got something else that I like the kind of cozy element of Legends and Lattes. But I picked up this book as part of the Amazing Readathon that Brianna was running in August because I needed a retelling. Had very low expectations, and then I absolutely loved it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars, and I will definitely read whatever the author brings out next. This was also a debut novel, which I just found super impressive, and that book is Girl, Goddess, Queen by Bea Fitzgerald. It's also, it doesn't hurt that it's, you know, absolutely gorgeous. It's even better looking without the dust jacket because, oh, look at this. For a hardcover, it's just like, yeah, it's absolutely beautiful, and it's illustrated and all of that stuff. But I just really connected with this book, and I really enjoyed it, and I felt the emotions that the author was trying to make me feel. It's a Hades and Persephone retelling in which Persephone is not kidnapped by Hades. She jumps into hell deliberately, and I really liked the slow burn romance between the 2 protagonists. I love the feminist aspect of this retelling. I loved Persephone, and I just felt like the author did a really good job of kind of bringing to life the Greek myths and explaining certain aspects of the Hades Persephone myth, because I feel like if you're going to do a myth retelling, you need to tackle all of the original elements of it, and I think she did that really well. So yeah, this is a beautiful book. Wasn't one that I was supposed to love, but I did, which was a plot twist. Okay, we have got like 4 more questions. Okay, questions number 6 is, show us some books on your TBR that seem like they will be exactly your taste. So I've had a little look. I'm filming this at the end of August, so I've just had my birthday, so my bookshelves have been very kindly replenished. If I don't like these 2 books, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I feel like if I don't like these 2 books, I can't judge my own reading taste. So the first one, no pressure, the first one is The Invisible Hour by Alice Hoffman. I adore Alice Hoffman's writing. I loved the Practical Magic Quartet. I didn't love every single book. I find Sally super annoying. But Alice Hoffman is an author where even if I'm not necessarily connecting to the characters, I'm still in love with her writing. She's just a stunning writer. And this is about a girl who's escaping from a cult. So it's got that dark element that I like. And it's Alice Hoffman. It's also very short because, like I said, I don't really have the attention span for long books. So I feel like this should tick every box. It's going to be literary fiction. It's going to be feminist. It's got a dark aspect to it. If I don't like this book, will I ever like another book? That's a touch dramatic, but there we go. And then the other book is also from another author that I love and adore. And again, if I don't like this book, I'm going to be really, really sad. And that is Learned by Heart by Emma Donoghue. This, as you can see, is the toppings. Signed first edition, and it's got the most beautiful sprayed edges. I'm obsessed. And this is, again, it's historical fiction. I love historical fiction. I love literary fiction. I love Emma Donoghue's literary fiction. The Pull of the Stars, yes, is one of my favourite books ever, also written by her. And so I should like this because this is historical fiction about Anne Lister, who was also known as Gentleman Jack, and it's going to have, I think, a love story or a romance type element to it, which I know Emma Donoghue can do really, really well because there is a similar element in The Pull of the Stars. So if I don't love both of these books, I need to stop choosing my own because I clearly don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, those should both be really highly rated books for me, and I really hope they are. Okay, number 7, a booktuber you watch who has similar taste to you. Okay, so first of all, Harriet. I have had so many great book recommendations from Harriet over the years. I mean, she is the one that was talking about The Illumination of Ursula Flight before I saw it anywhere else. She's the one that made me pick it up. I absolutely loved it. I've read it twice, maybe 3 times now. I've given it 5 stars every single time. So we definitely match up there. I think also I get a lot of really good book recommendations from Kat at Brews and Reviews. We don't cross over all the time. She reads a lot of fantasy and some sci-fi. And kind of stuff that I'm not like that interested in. But where we do cross over, we cross over really firmly. So I always enjoy getting book recommendations from her. And then I've got two more. So Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading is someone that I've come across recently. We were co-hosting or co-captaining the blue team for the Amazing Readathon together, and I've only watched a few videos from her, but I can already tell from the way that she reviews books that our taste is really, really similar. So I feel like she's someone that I haven't had a book recommendation from yet, but I know that I will, because we just seem to have a similar way of looking at books, which I really love. And then finally, Aoife at Words of Clover is definitely someone I can get solid book reviews from, book recommendations from. Again, we don't cross over all the time, but where we do cross, it's usually a 5-star read for me. So Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue, for example, is a book that she was shouting about before anybody else, and it's one of my favourite books of all time. Okay, so question number 8, final question before I tag some people, is have you always had this taste in books, or has it changed over time? I think coming onto Booktube has definitely developed my reading taste and changed it. I think I wasn't really picking up literary fiction before. I tried some like prize books, and there's a reason I don't read like the Booker List or whatever, because those books just don't really work for me. Typically, some of them have, like Hamnet, for example, is one of my favourite books of all time, and that was on, that won the Women's Prize, I think. But that was kind of incidental. Like, I don't go out my way to read prize lists because they just tend to be a bit too clever for me, and I don't always kind of come away understanding what the author was trying to do. But yeah, I feel like Booktube definitely has changed my reading taste a bit and got me to do things like read cozy fantasy or try literary fiction. All of those things have definitely developed over the last few years. I have always been a reader. I've always been a big reader, and I've always been a reader that reads a lot of genres. So even when I was younger, I would read, you know, contemporary and fantasy and kind of mystery books, or like beginner thrillers, all of that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's changed in the way I don't think the way that I read has changed, but probably the weighting of the different genres has shifted over time. And then number 9 is to tag some people. So if you haven't seen me do a tag video before, literally all I do to tag people is go into my subscription feed and I see who's posted a video recently and I tag them. So I'm going to tag Charlotte from Books and Bargains. I'm going to tag Neva from Reading with Neva. I can't talk today, sorry guys. I'm going to tag Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe. I'm just scrolling through the people that aren't booktubers. I'm going to tag Hannah from Ladder M, Rihanna from Welsh Reader, and Alice from Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. So you guys are all tagged if you want to do this tag. It's really, really fun. Obviously, if you don't want to, that's absolutely fine as well. If you've got to this point in the video, leave me the book stack emoji because I've talked about a lot of books in this video. Please subscribe if you would like more of this chaos, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks, everyone. Bye!